My fiancée slept with her ex the night before our wedding, so I left her a note, took my passport, and started a new life, Alanium, a 29-year-old guy, and this happened last year. At the time, I genuinely believed I was living the best chapter of my life. After years of messy breakups and failed relationships, I finally thought I had found the one. Her name was Claire, and from the moment we met, everything felt different. She laughed at my dumb jokes. She remembered the little things I said. And for the first time in a long time, I felt chosen instead of tolerated. Planning the wedding was stressful, but it was the kind of stress that felt exciting. My mom cried every time we mentioned the ceremony. My dad shook my hand like I had finally become a man, and friends teased me about how I was finally locking it down. It wasn't perfect, but it felt close enough. I used to go to bed smiling, picturing her walking toward me in her white dress, thinking this is at peace at last. Still, there was always one shadow I could never completely shake. Her ex. He was the guy she dated for years before me, the kind of man who lingered like a bad scar. She insisted they were over, that he meant nothing anymore. But every so often I'd catch the way her voice changed when his name came up, or the way her eyes lingered on her phone a second too long before putting it down. I told myself I was being paranoid, that everyone has a past, that if she chose me, it meant I'd already won. But deep down, in a part of me I didn't want to admit existed. I wondered if ghosts really ever stay buried. And as the wedding day got closer, that shadow started to feel heavier. Like it was waiting for me. The week leading up to the wedding should have been the happiest time of my life. But instead, it felt like I was walking on a tightrope. Every little detail seemed to crash onto my shoulders at once. The seating chart, the catering bill, my mom panicking over flowers arriving late. It was chaos, but the kind of chaos I thought couples laugh about years later. Except Claire wasn't laughing. She wasn't even smiling. She grew distant, almost cold. "I just need some space," she told me one night when I tried to hug her while we were checking the guest list. Her tone wasn't annoyed, was empty. It scared me more than if she'd yelled. I brushed it off as nerves. I mean, everyone freaks out before they say, "I do." That's what my best man kept telling me. She's probably just overwhelmed. Man, it's a big deal. But when I looked at her across the room, fiddling with her phone and avoiding my eyes, the pit in my stomach wouldn't go away. Even my mom noticed. She pulled me aside after rehearsal one evening and whispered, "Are you sure she's okay? She doesn't look happy." I forced a smile and lied. "She's just tired." It's been a lot for both of us. Inside, though, I was crumbling. Nights became unbearable. Claire would crawl into bed late, facing away from me, scrolling endlessly until her screen glowed against the wall. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, my chest tight, telling myself not to think the worst. But the worst thoughts came anyway. What if she regretted this? What if she still loved him? And yet, instead of confronting her, I bit my tongue. I told myself I'd rather live with the unease than risk blowing up the wedding. I didn't know then that silence was the most dangerous choice I could have made. The night before the wedding was supposed to be magical. The rehearsal dinner was beautiful string lights draped across the backyard, laughter echoing, friends raising glasses to toast our future. I tried to soak it in, to convince myself the unease I'd been carrying all week was nothing but stress. Claire smiled for the pictures, but it didn't reach her eyes. I noticed her slipping away from conversations, her hand tightening around her phone like it was a lifeline. At one point, I caught her typing furiously and then quickly turning the screen away when she realized I was watching. "Who's that?" I asked, keeping my voice casual, though my stomach nodded. "Just bridesmaid stuff," she answered too quickly, brushing past me like it was nothing. When the night ended, guests hugging us and saying, "See you tomorrow at the altar," Claire leaned in and whispered, "I'm exhausted. I'm going to head home early." Her tone was sharp, like she didn't want me to argue. I watched her leave. My fiancée, my soon-to-be wife, walking out into the night without even a kiss goodbye. Something inside me cracked, but I told myself not to be dramatic. Brides get nervous. Brides get tired. Tomorrow would fix everything. Back in my room, I poured myself a drink, trying to quiet the noise in my head. Then her phone, which she had left on the table earlier, buzzed, just once. A preview flashed across the screen before it disappeared. It wasn't from a bridesmaid. It was a name I recognized instantly, his name. My heart pounded so hard I thought my chest might burst. I wanted to grab the phone, Read everything, confront her right then. But I froze. My hands shook. I convinced myself that if I looked, if I confirmed my worst fear, there would be no wedding tomorrow. So instead, I set the phone down, crawled into bed alone, and told myself a lie. That tomorrow, love would fix it. But the unease didn't let me sleep. The morning of my wedding, I woke up with a knot in my chest that I couldn't explain. The sun was streaming through the blinds, but instead of excitement, I felt dread. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, and when I saw the caller ID, my blood ran cold. It was my friend Daniel. He never calls me that early unless something's seriously wrong. I don't know how to say this. His voice cracked, but I saw Claire last night. My heart dropped. Yeah, at the rehearsal dinner? What are you talking about? No, he whispered. At the Hilton. With him, for a second, the world stopped spinning. I laughed, but it wasn't real it. Was that broken kind of laugh people let out when they're seconds from shattering. You're sure? I'm sure, he said firm this time. I saw them go in together. I'm sorry, bro. Shaking. I opened the location app we'd shared since we started planning the wedding. Her pin wasn't at her apartment like she'd said it was right where Daniel said it would be. Hilton Hotel. That was it. The confirmation I didn't want but couldn't ignore less than 12 hours before our vows. She had been in a hotel room with her ex. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I was about to commit my entire life to, had betrayed me in the most brutal way imaginable. I stumbled to the bathroom, gripping the sink like it was the only thing keeping me upright. I stared into the mirror, my face pale, my eyes hollow. All I could see was a fool in a tuxedo, waiting to be laughed at. Every memory of us together replayed in my head, now poisoned. The engagement ring I saved for, the promises whispered in the dark, the tears she cried when she said I was her forever. All lies. I was supposed to be getting ready to say I do. Instead, I was standing in silence, heartbroken, humiliated, and full of rage I didn't know where to put. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, unable to move. My tux hung neatly on the door, waiting for me to step into it, but I couldn't even stand. My phone buzzed nonstop texts from family asking where I was, reminders from the groomsmen. Even a sweet "can't wait to see you at the altar" from Claire herself. The hypocrisy of it made me sick. I imagined myself walking down that aisle, smiling through the pain, holding hands with a woman who had betrayed me less than a day earlier. The thought made bile rise in my throat. Was I really going to let her stand in front of God, our families, our friends, and promise to love me, knowing full well where she'd been? Daniel called again, his voice low but firm. Listen, you can't go through with this. Don't do this to yourself, man. My mom knocked softly on the door of my suite. Honey, are you okay? Everyone's waiting. Her voice cracked, full of concern, and it almost broke me. I wanted to fling the door open and collapse into her arms, tell her everything. But instead, I stayed frozen, silent, ashamed. The weight of betrayal pressed on me until I could barely breathe. My chest was tight, my hands clammy, tears burning behind my eyes. Every moment with Claire played in my mind like some cruel montage of our first kiss. The way she clung to me when her car broke down, the promises she whispered when she said she wanted forever with me, it all turned to ash. I had never felt so humiliated, so gutted, so small dot. In that moment, I wasn't a groom. I wasn't even a man. I was just broken. And that's when I realized, die. Couldn't go through with this wedding. Somewhere between the silence and the pounding in my chest, something inside me snapped not with rage, but with clarity. I couldn't walk down that aisle. I couldn't let myself be bound to a lie. She had already made her choice the night before. Now it was time for me to make mine. I grabbed a pen and the hotel notepad by the bedside. My hand trembled as I pressed the tip to the paper, but the words flowed out quickly, as if they had been waiting for me. I know where you were last night. I deserve better. Don't look for me. No dramatic speech, no begging for an explanation, just the truth, cold. Final I folded the note and left it on the pillow where I was supposed to wake up beside her as her husband. The irony cut deep. Then I moved on autopilot. I pulled my passport from the drawer, stuffed clothes into a small bag, and checked the time. The morning buzz of wedding preparations was beginning to stir outside the shuffle of staff. The distant hum of cars arriving. I knew I had only minutes before the world expected me to put on that tuxedo. Every step toward the door felt like walking through mud. My legs were heavy, my heart screaming at me to collapse, to curl up and let someone else fix it. But I knew no one could. Not my friends, not my parents. This was mine to carry. I slipped out quietly, unnoticed, the note waiting like a ticking bomb behind me, and for the first time since Daniel's call, I felt a strange, terrifying sense of freedom. I wasn't running away. I was choosing myself, but I knew when that note was found, everything would explode. By the time I slipped into a cab and left the hotel, my phone was already buzzing nonstop. Calls from my best man, texts from my mom, even an all-caps message from Claire. "Where are you?" I turned the phone face down on the seat and stared out the window, my heart pounding like I'd just committed a crime. Later, through friends and family, I heard exactly how it played out at the venue. Guests were arriving, dressed to the nines, smiles wide, waiting for the big day. The music started, people were being seated, and then nothing. No groom, no explanation. Claire apparently went into panic mode. She stormed into the suite where I was supposed to be getting ready, only to find the note lying neatly on the pillow. They said she froze, staring at it for a long time, her face draining of all color. Then she crumpled it in her fist and screamed, loud enough that people in the hallway heard. From there, it was pure chaos. My parents demanded answers. Her parents rushed to her side. The bridesmaids whispered to each other in shock. Word spread quickly, too quickly. Guests were murmuring, phones buzzing, speculation flying through the crowd. Nobody had to say it outright. The truth was practically written on her face. The wedding never even started. The venue emptied in a storm of confusion and embarrassment. Families argued, friendships fractured, and in the middle of it all, Claire had to face the whispers. She wasn't the victim in this story, not anymore. I wasn't there to see it, but part of me almost wished I had been just to watch the mask fall off in front of everyone, to see the lies unravel in real time. Instead, I was miles away, riding in silence, knowing that a single folded note had detonated the life we built, and the fallout had only just begun. 4 days after, I kept replaying that moment in my head, the moment she found the note. Everyone kept asking me, "What did you write? What could possibly blow up the wedding like that?" And I think that's what gave it its power. It wasn't long, it wasn't dramatic, it was short, cold. "Final dot," the note said. "I know where you were last night. I deserve better. Don't look for me." That was it. No screaming, no begging, no drawn-out fight. Just the truth she couldn't escape from. From what I heard, Claire tried to spin it at first. She told her parents and mine that I'd had a breakdown, that I panicked at the altar. But people talk. My best man, Daniel, knew the truth, and once he opened his mouth, the entire room knew too. Her betrayal wasn't just between us anymore. It was out in the open, exposed like a wound for everyone to see. Some said she cried hysterically. Others said she tried to chase me down after reading it. Either way, the effect was the same. The facade was gone. The perfect couple image shattered in front of the very people who were supposed to celebrate our forever. And here's the thing: I didn't feel guilty. Not even for a second. Because in those few words, I gave myself something I hadn't had in weeks: control. I refused to be humiliated by standing at that altar while she pretended nothing had happened. I refused to be the fool, smiling for photos while everyone whispered behind my back. That note was my goodbye. But it was also my revenge, and as I sat alone in a tiny airport lounge later that night, boarding pass in hand, I realized I wasn't just leaving her, I was leaving my old life behind. When my flight took off that night, I stared out the window as the city lights shrank beneath me. My chest still ached, but for the first time in days, I could breathe without choking. I had no plan, no safety net, just a passport, a small bag, and enough savings to keep me afloat for a while. It was reckless, maybe even stupid, but it felt like freedom. I landed in Lisbon, a place I had always dreamed of visiting but never thought I'd actually see. The air smelled of salt and roasted chestnuts. The cobblestone streets glistened after rain, and the language rolling off strangers' tongues made me feel like I had finally disappeared into a world where no one knew my story. No whispers, no pity, no shame. The first nights were hard. I lay awake in a small, rented apartment, the bed cold and unfamiliar. replaying everything over and over again: her laugh, her lies, the hotel, the note. My chest would tighten until I thought it might crush me. But then, every morning, I stepped outside into a city that didn't know my name. And slowly, the weight started to shift. I found myself wandering narrow alleys, sipping strong coffee in tiny cafes, sketching ideas for a new life on scraps of paper. I was no longer someone's fiancé, no longer the fool abandoned on his wedding day. I was just a man hurt, yes, but alive, and that strange mixture of heartbreak and relief fueled me. I wasn't healed, not even close. But every step I took on those uneven streets felt like one step away from her, one step closer to myself. I thought the worst was behind me, but she wasn't finished with me. Yet, it started about 2 weeks after I left. At first, just a single email popped up in my inbox. "Please, just talk to me." I ignored it, but then another came, and another. By the end of the week, I had 50 unread messages, each one more frantic than the last. Claire's tone shifted with every attempt. Some were soft, begging. It was a mistake. I was scared. I didn't mean it. Others were defensive, angry. "You overreacted. We could have fixed this if you'd stayed." She even tried guilt. "Do you know how humiliating it was for me? Do you know what you did to my family?" I wanted to scream through the screen. What she did to her family? What about what she did to me? Then the calls started. Unknown numbers, blocked ID. My phone would light up at 3 a.m., vibrating across the nightstand until I finally silenced it. But she didn't stop there. She tracked down my parents, my cousins, even an old coworker. People I hadn't spoken to in months suddenly reached out, saying, "She's been trying to get in touch with you. She seems desperate." Desperate was an understatement. In one message, she wrote, "I'll get on a plane right now. Just tell me where you are." The idea of her showing up unannounced, invading this fragile new world I was building for myself, made my stomach twist. And yet, part of me felt that old tug, the memory of who I thought she was. For a split second, I wondered if I should hear her out, if maybe closure required a conversation. But then I'd picture that hotel pin on the map, the truth staring back at me, and I knew some wounds don't deserve bandages. Still, the pressure built until I realized I couldn't run forever. It was time to face her one last time. I finally agreed to a video call. Not because I wanted her back, but because I needed to see her one last time to prove to myself that I was no longer the man who would beg for scraps of her love. When the screen lit up, there she was. Her eyes were red, her makeup smudged, her voice trembling. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize her. "Please," she whispered, "just let me explain." I sat there, silent. I wanted her to fill the silence with the truth. But instead, she offered excuses. It didn't mean anything. I panicked. I thought, I don't know, maybe I needed closure with him before I could move on. Her words were frantic, hollow. I finally said, my voice calm in a way that surprised me, "You slept with your ex the night before our wedding. That's not closure, that's betrayal." She broke down, sobbing, her face buried in her hands. "I love you. I made a mistake. One mistake. But the thing is, it wasn't just one mistake. It was the culmination of every doubt, every lie, every late-night glance at her phone that I had ignored. It was proof that when the choice came down to me or temptation, she hadn't chosen me. I'm not angry anymore," I told her quietly, "but I'm done. If this is how our story ends, then so be it. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine." She begged, pleaded, even tried to bargain. "We can go to counseling. We can start over." But her voice faded into static in my ears. I wasn't listening anymore, because in that moment, I realized I wasn't broken. I was free, and with one click, I ended the call and ended us. After I ended the call, I sat in silence, staring at the blank screen. For the first time in weeks, my chest wasn't tight. There were no tears left, no anger boiling under my skin, just quiet, heavy, but freeing. Starting over alone was terrifying. I won't lie, there were nights when the loneliness clawed at me, when I'd lie awake wondering if I'd made a mistake, if walking away had cost me the future I always wanted. But then I'd remember that hotel, that map pin, that folded note on the pillow, and I'd realize the truth. The future I thought I wanted never really existed, so I built a new one. I started exploring Lisbon like it was my personal playground. I hiked up steep hills for the best views of the city, sat by the ocean at sunset with nothing but my thoughts, and filled notebooks with sketches and plans for a life that was finally mine. I wasn't the groom who got left behind. I wasn't the guy she cheated on. I was just me, and, for the first time in years, that felt like enough. People back home eventually stopped asking about her. My parents, though heartbroken at first, told me they were proud I had chosen self-respect over settling for betrayal. That meant more than I can explain. Looking back now, I don't see tragedy. I see a rescue. She didn't ruin my life. She freed me from living one built on lies. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Betrayal doesn't define you. Walking away does so, yeah. I lost a fiancé, but I gained myself. And that's the kind of love story I'll never regret.